Welcome back, everybody. Sarcasm Speaks, Jared and Bob here, coming at you on a fine Sunday evening. And I think you got something for us out of the gate here.
Yeah, so it's like semi-topical because it's kind of coming up, and truthfully, I don't know a lot about it.
Oh, do
But
the election?
well, um, so in Massachusetts,
Mhm.
question 5 is a
Okay.
question that Massachusetts voters will be looking at.
Hmm.
Um, question 5 is changes the pay structure, or a yes vote would change the pay structure for tipped employees. So obviously this is basically restaurants, right?
Right, right.
Um, so I am on Ballotpedia. So question 5 would over 5 years get tipped workers to make minimum wage in the state. So they would go from 64. So right now, I don't even know what they make. It doesn't matter. Or it's 675 or something.
Yeah.
Um, and minimum wage in Massachusetts is 15. So they would pay paid 64% of minimum wage, 73%, 82%, 91%, and then eventually getting to 100.
Yeah.
I don't know what those are in dollars, but that's fine. Doesn't matter. Um, so it would also allow a change in kind of like the structure. So by 2029, if this was to pass, the employer paying the hourly wage could also create a tip pool. So all the tips for the day goes into the pool and then it gets all distributed out
Right.
to everybody, including non-tipped workers. So truth be told, I don't really have a dog in the fight for for this. So actually, Ballotpedia, they give kind of two things right here. So one side of it, the support side is just a quick quote. Thousands of tipped workers in Massachusetts are leaving the restaurant industry and not willing to return without a fair wage. Nearly 250 Massachusetts employers are now paying to recruit staff, level the playing field, whatever. The opposition side is points out that this is going to affect three tiers: the server themselves, the restaurant owner who's going to have more cost, and those costs then being passed to the consumer. Um, so it sounds like if we were just to summarize really quick, so paying it would be getting these people up to minimum wage, and then also they wouldn't have to rely on tips, but I
Mhm.
don't know if the United States is ready for that.
Yeah. So for someone that doesn't have a dog in the fight, I have a fairly strong opinion on this one, oddly. Um, I've seen a lot of people on Instagram that I follow that work in the restaurant world post about voting no, saying hell no, we don't want this, like don't vote for this. So I a couple things here. I was just jotting down some notes as you brought this up to try and organize my thoughts for this one. Um, but before I get into that, typically I will defer to the people that are in the industry that these votes will directly affect, because they are the subject matter experts, right? Like I said, I don't have a dog in the fight. I've actually never worked in a restaurant in my entire life. Um,
Never have either done retail.
yeah, yeah. So it's one of those where like I couldn't be any further away from this. I know plenty of people that do work in it, and all of those people on Instagram that have that work that live and work in Massachusetts have said vote no on 5. So again, I would typically in a situation where I don't really know one way or the other, like if all of the people that work in the restaurant industry are saying vote no on this, then I'm probably going to vote no, because they don't want it. So, couple things here now that I was just jotting down. Um, the first one, and everyone is, I know some, not everyone, but some people are going to be like, oh, here we go. But the facts are the facts. If you if you implement this system, right? So in 5 years they'll be making minimum wage, whatever. It's going to remove motivation for good service, right? Because this is the situation. People are potentially no longer going to be able to be career restaurant workers. They're not restaurateurs, right? A restaurateur, I think, is someone that owns the restaurant.
Yeah, that's someone either owns or
Um,
opens or runs.
so there are plenty of people that make a career out of being a hostess or a bartender or whatever, right? Those people are going to be less and less. And you're going to remove the motivation for good service. Now, some people are going to be like, well, sometimes I get shitty service. Now, you're right. And how
Yeah,
long?
some people suck at their jobs.
Some
It's
people
easy.
suck at their job, but how long is that shitty server going to continue to be a server if they don't get good tips, right? I will almost always tip 20% or somewhere close unless I get dog shit service, then you're going to get 15 or 18, like 15 to 18 in that range. If you were fantastic, like if you were just hanging out at the table, you were shooting the shit, you were making jokes, you're doing whatever, I'll look at 25%, right? Like I'll throw the extra money. Like the the waitress in South Carolina at the bar when it absolutely downpoured and she talked us into staying, right? And not
Oh
going
yeah.
out in the monsoon to go to a different bar. She was like, y'all should just stay and just order more drinks. And we were like, fuck yeah. Like she probably got like 30% a tip that night because we were
Yeah.
all drunk. But still, like that's good service, right? Like that's someone that like you're a good person, you have a good personality, you're funny, like you, I also know in my head that you rely because that's the other part of it too. It's a two-way street. I know that you rely on tips, right, to really make your money because you get paid $6 an hour, right? So I know that you give me good service, I will give you a better tip so you can walk away with more money. Now, again, it's not a perfect world, right? It's not a perfect scenario. You're going to get some shitty workers. Um, and you're also going to have someone that's a phenomenal uh, waiter or waitress, and you're going to come across a shit bag that doesn't believe in tipping, right? They're going to pound their fist. Oh, I don't believe in tipping. So whatever, like you can't make blanket statements on either way because there are assholes in the world, right? And some people do suck at their job. But the tipped wages do matter and they do incentivize better service, right? Again, because because of the two-way psychology of it, I know that you need my tip to make more money. So if you're good, I will give you more money, right? That's what I have control over. I can't go to the chef in the back and be like, "Oh, that $27 prime rib, if you cook it perfectly medium rare at 128 degrees, I'll pay you $32 for it." Or like that's not how that goes, right? Like you don't get to do that in restaurants. You get to do that with the server. So if I know that you're making 15, $16 an hour, I'm not going to give you, a 20% tip on top of it. Like cuz the cost of the food is also going to go up, right? Which is the other part of it. So now that everyone's bitching and complaining about, oh, I can't believe a cheeseburger is $15. Well, when the restaurant now needs to double what they pay their employees instead of paying them $6, now they need to pay them $15. I hope you're ready for a $22 cheeseburger, right? To cover the difference. So if I have to pay $22 for a cheeseburger and I know that you're making $15 an hour, I'm not going to be so inclined to give you 25% on a tip, right? I'm going to look closer to probably 10 to 15 because what am I going to do? Am I going to go out or the alternative is I'm just going to stop going out altogether and I'm not going to go to restaurants because I'm not going to go out for lunch, right? Because lunch is usually a little cheaper, it's a little lighter, whatever. You get a cheeseburger, you get a sandwich. It's not a sit down meal. Am I going to drop $130 on lunch because a cheeseburger is $22? If if Amy goes and gets a sandwich or a salad or something, and that's $25 now, and it's like, what are we doing? Now that's $50 just in food if I get a beer and she gets a drink. Now you're looking at 75 after a tip, all that. Like lunch just became $100 plus. But like that's absurd. So I'm not doing that, right? Like that's not happening. Um, so that's the situation you're going to be in, right? And the other thing is you're going to lose good workers in the restaurant industry. One, because of that, but two, because the total earnings are going to become stagnant, right? Because it's going to shift. So if you make 30% of your income on a standard income and you make 70% on tips, and then the standard income goes up, now maybe you make 60% of your income on your wage, and now your tip goes down, right? So like the potential for someone to be a bartender to go in and make $800 on a Friday night goes away because the tips they receive aren't going to be the same, right? If someone has to go in and spend $15 on a beer, like beers are already $12 in Boston. Like, is a beer going to approach $20 in Boston? Like that's insane, right? Like, what are you going to tip on an $18 Bud Light, right? Like a dollar. You're going to get a single dollar from me on an $18 Bud Light, right? Like so, and let alone mixed drinks are already 18 to 20. So you're going to go in and get you know, an old fashioned and pay $23 for an old fashioned. It's not going to happen, right? Like it's going to crush the business because people like me, right, or people on the lower end of the income spectrum, which it's not necessarily me, but I am not a freewheeling and dealing spender. I try not to be. Like I'm not going to go out and spend $23 on an old fashioned. I'm not going to spend $18 on a beer. Like I'm just not going to go out, which is kind of shitty. And it kind of sucks, right? Because I want to. Or you know what I'm going to do? So I'm just going to go out in Rhode Island because Rhode Island is literally right next door to me. So I'm just going to stop going to Massachusetts restaurants. So I'm
Does
going
it
to
make
take
you a
all my
scallywag
money.
or a carpetbagger? I don't know
Yeah,
which one.
probably a carpetbagger. Um, but yeah, I mean, and I really don't think it's a good thing. And it's one of those where once again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? Everyone's like, "Oh, we have to help the workers. We have to help the restaurant workers." Who put this bill out? That's what I want to know. I know
Workers.
you don't know the answer. It's somewhat rhetorical question, but I want to know who put this bill out because I guarantee you it wasn't restaurant workers. It was some subgroup that claims that they represent them, right? Restaurant workers weren't clamoring saying, "Oh, we want to get rid of tips and make minimum wage," right? Because the other thing that you said that comes with that is tip pooling. So everyone that's like, "Oh, dude, you can't say that. Like, you don't know. Some people might make it, some people might not." The What do you mean the wages are going to get stagnant? Well, again, if you know you're going to go in and you're going to make $15 an hour, and then regardless of how good you are at your job, if the restaurant makes, you know, $5,000 in tips from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. during your shift, and there's whatever, 10 other wait staff, you're now going to split that. So that one person at your table that loved you, that loved your service, that left you $150 tip, you now have to split that up proportionally with all the other servers. That's communism. That is quite literally communism.
I was gonna
And
say
that
it
sucks.
does have some communist vibes,
Yeah.
which another thing sounds great on paper.
Yeah. So now you can be a shitty server. you can skate by, but some other server that's great and gets great tips from their patrons, you get a portion of that tip. So why the fuck would you try? I don't have to try that hard. Jeff over there is a fantastic server. Look at, he's got the whole table cackling. They'll probably give him a 40% tip. I don't have to work that hard. Jeff's got a great table tonight. Fuck it. Like that's what's going to happen.
Think so. The other side too, there are some restaurants that have paid their people more and got rid of tips. So I don't
So
know.
that's the part two to
Okay.
this. The part two is the way you get me to support this is to abolish tips altogether and pay them
Like a
25
salary.
bucks an hour, right? Because right now the whole thing is, oh, they just want, let's get them to minimum wage. Hey,
Oh,
dickheads, minimum wage is minimum wage. You're still not going to get great product paying someone minimum wage. If you want someone to be a fantastic server and you want to give them real money, then pay them 50, 60, $70,000 a year. Put them on a salary, right? Or don't put them on salary, make them hourly, right? But pay them an hourly rate equivalent to what they would make otherwise from tips, right? And that's how you fix the tip pooling issue, right? Instead of at the end of every night you take your tips and you pool them to whoever was working, the business just takes it as income, right? And then you redistribute that as a salary to your employees. So it's sort of tip pooling, but it's not. It's not tip pooling. It's now this counts as income, or it counts as revenue to the business, just as any other, income stream would count for a business. And now you can redistribute that in the way of employee salary that way. Like that's how you fix that issue, right? And that's the part two of it that then I would 100% get behind that, right? Like I don't know what the average, say the average um you know bartender, right, in not in Boston, right? Because I'm sure in Boston you can make six figures as a bartender, right? um but say in the suburbs in Massachusetts, say the average bartender makes 70 grand a year. Like that's a pretty good salary, right? The issue right now is that for that bartender to make 70 grand a year, they go in on a Friday night and make 800 bucks. They go in on the next night on a Saturday, maybe something's going on somewhere else and they only make 400 bucks. And then they got to work Tuesday and they make 75 bucks. Right? Like there was no one in on Tuesday and they only made 75 bucks, right? So you have very inconsistent income. But if at the end of the day you're going to make 70 grand, then why don't you just work it out with the restaurant to be paid an hourly wage equivalent to 70 grand? I don't know what that is, maybe 30 bucks an hour or something like that. Um, and then go from there. Like that's how you fix that problem. But that's not the solution that's provided in question five.
and that's so the other thing, and I actually put this into my notes before I talked about it because I don't know if it's all of Europe, but definitely Italy, definitely Greece. I'm not sure about the other places. Also, yes, I've been to Italy once, so people forget. Uh, they don't tip.
Right.
So the way that that goes, when you sit down and you have your meal and you get your bill, you either go up to pay or they come to you with a little machine. They do not take your card and walk away with it. And when you tap for payment, that transaction is done. Like it is over. There is no slip that comes out where you can write a tip in.
Right.
That doesn't happen. And if you like before the bill comes out, if you said like, hey, you did a really good job, could you add like 10 bucks to my bill as like a tip? I think they can do it, but that server does not see that 10 bucks. That goes to the restaurant.
Right.
So you're like this proposed thing does exist. There's other countries that do it,
For sure. Yeah.
but those countries are a little bit different.
Right.
Like
And
Costs
again,
a,
that also is not what's being proposed.
it's not what's being proposed. So that was the thing. Like, so originally I was gonna ask, hey, would you rather get rid of tips, but the bill's definitely gonna go up to start.
Yeah.
Um, but hey, then like, you pay what you pay, and like that's kind of that.
Right. And I would do that.
But then
I
the
would,
downside is so he because this is so in other countries where they don't have tips, this isn't a problem. In the US where people are used to tips, they're just gonna say, fuck it, I'm not gonna try as hard. That's my or at least that's how I would feel
right.
or my thoughts. Because that's
But
the
you,
thing is like when you're at a place and there are no tips, whatever. So it's like your server does not necessarily mean your server. So like someone might seat you, someone else might bring you drinks, someone else might bring you an appetizer, someone else might clear your plates, someone else might bring your entrees,
right.
someone else gets you a dessert menu, and someone else gets you the bill.
Right. Right.
And it's like we're not used to that here. And that's why like I don't think I actually, and truth be told, I think that system's phenomenal
I
because
do too.
the way because it actually works the way perfectly should. Like the servers are going to make money, and anyone that does go over the top, they get a cash tip
Right.
because people still will leave them. Not a lot, but it's not 20%.
Right. Right.
People will still leave tips. It's just you need to do something fucking exceptional.
Right.
Like
Right.
that's like how it
And
works. So
then,
you'd still get some people who are good at their jobs, because just like the same way someone sucks at their jobs, someone who decides to be good at their job, they might go above and beyond, and then they might get something.
right.
But again, it would be cash. It wouldn't be tracked. It wouldn't go to the restaurant. It'd be like that.
Right.
Um,
So then in that scenario, right, it falls on the restaurant to
pay their people.
pay their people, right?
Right.
So right now, you can be a phenomenal server at a shitty restaurant and do well, right? Because
Right.
you're a good server. And again, you're friendly, you're personable, you make people laugh, you spend time at the table, again, you're doing the thing, you're schmoozing, you're doing whatever you need to do, right? But the restaurant you work for, maybe they fuck up orders all the time, and the food's not super great. Like there's some complaints. Sometimes things get sent back, but you can still do well, right? Under the newer system, right? It would be a lot harder to do that. So a good worker isn't going to work for a shitty restaurant. So when you apply that system to the free market, I know I'm speaking in ideals, right? But ideally, what happens is the shitty restaurants go out of business
Right.
because they're bad restaurants. They can't obtain good staff, right? Obtain or retain good staff, right? So the good staff goes to good restaurants. They get paid better at those restaurants because the restaurant is generating more money, right? And then likewise, right on the other end of that, you might have a great, phenomenal restaurant, right? Like a two-star Michelin restaurant, right? It's great, but it's run by a really shitty dirtbag that doesn't want to pay his employees. So you can sit there and be like, all right, I can work for a two-star Michelin restaurant and be like, yeah, that's cool or whatever, but I'm making like 50 grand a year. I can go to like Margaritaville down the street, who Jimmy Buffett takes care of his people because he's worth $1 bajillion and doesn't care about making money in his restaurants. So I can make 70 grand at working at Margaritaville versus 50 grand at this two-star restaurant working for a dickbag who doesn't like to pay his employees. So I'm just going to go work there. Right. So then that, you know, alleged two-star Michelin restaurant would go out of business because again, it couldn't retain good staff. It can get all the Michelin stars at once and the fancy plates and the small food and the tiny portions and whatever. But if you're not going to pay your employees, they're going to leave and go somewhere else. Like that's how the market is supposed to work. And I am 100% behind that.
Few other things that you could probably see American restaurants start to do too, that they do in Europe. So one, every restaurant charges a cover. So there are no tips, but you need to pay $4 a person just to sit down.
Yeah.
So that's like the first line on your bill. Also in Europe, I think the water, like the tap water system is just different because there is no tap water in restaurants. Like you want water, you got to get a bottle, whether it's still or sparkling. Like so you're buying now you're buying like another item on there. So it's like
Right.
before you've even like if you want water at a restaurant, over there, like you've just paid for two people, eight, and then I don't know what the bottles are cheap. They're like $3, $4. But that wouldn't be like that over here. They would be
Right.
fucking 10, 12, fucking 15. I don't fucking know.
Right.
Um, so yeah, you would I think you would start to see some stuff like that get added right to the top. Like you want to come in, sure, there's a cover charge. Fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, would you like some water? It's like, yeah, you got tap. Nope. Still or sparkling. What do you want?
Yeah, but I mean,
Or you can get it like a drink, like
yeah, again though, I'm fine with that. No, with the caveat of like if the restaurant is going to pay their employees well and have good service and good food and all that, like I'll pay whatever, right? Like I'm gonna be pissy and bitch and moan, right? Is like, all right, I'm paying all this money and I got shit service and now I have to leave a tip on top of a $22 cheeseburger, right? But like if I go to a restaurant and I know they're being paid well, the service is good. All right, whatever. $22 is how much a cheeseburger costs now, right? Like I'm
the
satisfied with
thing.
my
It's
experience at a restaurant because I got good service. I know the server is making good money. So we're all happy here. Like I'm
yeah.
paying you for a service, so I'm willing to pay, right?
This is
I'm
and
not
this is the
willing to
thing. You
pay
just
in the other scenario.
people are like, oh my God, the restaurants, everything's gonna cost so much more. No, it's just gonna cost 20% more.
Right,
That's all it's gonna do is just add 20% back on.
right, right.
And then yeah, you're right. At some point, there's only so much you can charge for fucking Caesar salad. Like, yeah, Caesar salad with chicken, $30. Like, no,
Yeah,
it's not how this is gonna work.
exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, I don't know. I don't like, I mean, I'm not gonna vote, but I don't know which, I mean, I would probably vote no just to kind of keep things the same because again, I don't think this country can figure out how to make that work the right way.
Yeah, yeah,
I think a lot of people have been like, it's been so long, um, that it's been that way. But yeah, I would like for a world where to get hired as a server, like you are a like salaried person.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I think what really grinds my gears is the half-baked, half-assed ideas and plans and solutions that don't actually provide a good solution.
Yeah,
Right?
because
Like this
you just
question
like
five thing, like, oh yeah,
yeah,
no, we're gonna turn tips into a tip pool. And
and we're
then
gonna get
over
them
the
up to
course of
minimum
the next
wage.
5 years, they're gonna have to be paid $15 an hour. It's like that literally all you did was just fuck over the restaurants. That's all you did there. You didn't help anybody,
Yeah, because
right?
so minimum wage on 40 hours is $31,000 a year. So if you work, and that's the thing, if you work all 40, because that's the other piece too, is people gonna get like the workers are gonna start to get dicked around with that too.
Oh yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, we're gonna cut an hour off here, cut an hour off there.
Yep.
Oh, why don't you just work 4 hours tonight?
Well, now
Like,
it's one of those like, oh, it doesn't look like it's going to be busy tonight, so we'll cut half the staff.
yeah, or it's
And
like,
it's
wait,
like,
I'm paying you 100K a year, so on a Tuesday, like, you're the server, that's it.
right, right.
Like, I'm not paying for someone else to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's the system has a solution, right? It exists. Like you said, it exists in Europe. The European countries do this. That is the solution. What's proposed in question five is
It's
not
not
the
the
solution.
solution.
So I will be voting no. right? On top of the fact that, again, all the people that I see on social media that work in the restaurant industry are like, please vote no for this. So the other thing, that's a good point that you brought this up because I forgot about this. I saw this the other day. I got something in the mail about question two that is repealing the MCAS for graduation requirement. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, yeah, dude, that's a no brainer. The MCAS is fucking stupid. Like, it's so dumb. And for so long, how long have I been shredding the education system? And I said that I've said multiple times, it all started when the MCAS became a graduation requirement because then you had people teaching to the MCAS. We would have MCAS prep classes. We would spend time in our classes throughout the year learning how to do certain things because quote unquote, this is going to be on the MCAS, right? This is going to be on the MCAS. And now today, kids don't know how to read a fucking clock because, well, and that there's probably other reasons for that, just because, digital clocks and phones have time on them. But still, I would say rewind 10 years before phones got super as big as they were, kids couldn't read analog clocks 10 years ago, right? Because they stopped using the little yellow face thing with the blue circle and the red arms like that, the clock thing in school. They stopped using that, right? They stopped teaching that stuff because it wasn't on the MCAS, right? They stopped teaching useful things because it wasn't on the MCAS. So I think the MCAS sucks. However, I will also be voting no on question two to repeal the MCAS for a graduation requirement because they didn't replace it with anything. What's the thing, right? You're just going to say, oh, you don't need to pass the MCAS anymore to graduate. Okay. Well, what's the new standard in order to graduate?
Yeah, there's got to
Like
be
just get a
something.
D in every class. Just don't fail your class. That surely can't be good enough, right? Like we're supposed to be the number one state in the entire country in the education, which if you do the transitive property, that means that we're the number one area in the entire world, right? Like I know math and science, we've fallen behind and we get our asses kicked by like China and like Finland and shit like that. But let's be real. The United States still produces the greatest minds, right? There's a reason why people come from all over the world to go to MIT and Harvard and Yale and Brown and Cornell and all these places. I couldn't outside of Oxford, I couldn't tell you one other college for the rest of the world. Don't know one, right? Like in Cambridge, right? I think those are different. I think right. I think those are different. Oxford and Cambridge,
Mm,
they might
not
be the
sure.
same thing. Once again, don't give a shit, right? Doesn't matter because the United States has some of the best education here in the world, right? So if Massachusetts is the best in the country and we're one of the best countries in the world, esto facto, we're one of the best in the world, right? So you're just going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, that test that we needed you to take in order to pass and graduate high school. Yeah, you don't need to do that anymore. Oh, great. I think that's a great idea because the test is kind of shitty and it kind of ruined the way that teachers taught school. So, like, what's the new requirement? Oh, well, you just have to not fail all your classes. Well, that seems fucking stupid. That seems like a really low bar for the state that's supposed to be the number one in the country in education. Is all you have to do to graduate is just not fail your classes? There's no like, you know, objective measurement otherwise that you want to replace the MCAS with. Because let I'm all for again, I am chomping at the bit to get rid of the MCAS. I think it is stupid, right? But why can't you replace it with like something else? Like make it almost like a capstone, right? Like what you need to do in a like a postgraduate program, like if you want to go get, some sort of master's level or higher certification, right? You have to do a capstone project, right? Where you like spend all this time researching something and do all that. Or in grad school, you have to do a thesis, right? Like you and I did a master's thesis, right? Like that's what
A
we did.
research project, but
Yeah,
yeah.
the research project. It's the same shit, right? Research project, thesis. Like,
We had three options. You had a research, a thesis, or the comps.
why don't you do that? in high school, right? And then, God forbid, you allow someone in high school to explore something that they're really fucking interested in. What if someone is takes a trip to Italy with their family
Been there once.
in junior year of high school, and they're like, "Oh my God, Roman architecture is unbelievable. I am 1000% head over heels in love. I want to do a senior thesis on Roman history and architecture." 100%, dude, go for it. Right. But people don't want to do that because it's extra work for the staff at the school. Because now you need to pick 3 or 5 people, right, as teachers or administrators that need to sit there as the quote unquote board, right? Because you need to present this thesis or research in front of a board, right? And is this effective, right? How thorough was this research? Is it to the standard that you would like in order for this child, right, this student to graduate from high school? If the answer is yes, and they explored everything they needed to explore properly, and they defended it in front of you, again, knowing that the kids are like 17, 18 years old. I'm not assuming it's going to be a 25-year-old person doing a master's thesis defending it, or a 27-year-old doing a PhD dissertation defense. I don't expect it on that level. But like, is it good enough to say this person did something like worthy enough to graduate from high school? Yeah, then yes, you get to graduate. Okay, cool. That's better than the MCAS. But if you're just going to sit here and be like, yeah, we're just going to get rid of the MCAS. All right, well, what are you going to replace it with? Well, nothing. All right, well, I'm going to vote no to get rid of the MCAS then, because that's a stupid fucking solution. Like, you can't just sit there and be like, yeah, this is bad. Let's get rid of it. Okay, well, what's better? Give me something that's better, right? And let's implement that. Oh, no, 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 no. That's way too much work. We just need to vote on getting rid of it because it sucks. Well, actually, I agree with you. I think it sucks. But why can't we think of something better? Like, that's what drives me nuts because people are just dumb and they're lazy and they don't want to put the effort into making something better. Like, well, this is bad, so get rid of it.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like when you start take that, and that's the thing is like we're breeding retards anyway. So it's like when you take away any level of challenge or difficulty or standard, because that's all it really is a standard. It's a standardized test. That's
Right. Right.
where do you fall? Like these are the things that we deem important or whatever. And if you just get rid of all these barriers, then it's like, why would these kids do anything?
Yeah.
They already don't do anything.
Yeah. You're just going to make them do less. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Should work out really well.
I hope your firings go awfully good. But at least when they're working in a restaurant, they'll be making minimum wage. I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man. The amount of things that, again, I go back to it all the time. It's a stupid saying, but at this point in the way the world is, I think it's so accurate, is that the road to hell is paved with good intentions, right? I think that people intend well, right? They mean well to try and get restaurant workers higher wages, right? They're just going about it absolutely retardedly. And yes, I just made retarded an adjective or an adverb. Um, but and also I think people mean well when they recognize there's an issue with the MCAS. They mean well by trying to get rid of it. But again, they're going about it retardedly. Again, to use the
They,
word as an
they
adverb. Again.
this they're not it's almost like what do they say? Like oh like in like strength conditioning. It's like, oh, you're treating the symptoms, not the cause.
Right. Right.
They're trying to change features without creating a comprehensive solution.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these are all people
And
that pass the MCAS.
yeah, it's true. Um, I think it's a insight into a more systemic way of thought just in the country in itself, right? Because like you just said, right? We talk about I say we as if I'm still involved, but folks in the strength and conditioning world talk about it in the treating the symptoms, not the cause, right? It's a big thing in the medical world. Like I was just listening to a podcast earlier. Um, Phenomenal, by the way. I'll send it to you. I don't know if you have time to listen to it or not, but um, it's a brother and sister, Callie and Casey Means. They went on Rogan, and I'm listening to a different one now where it's just the guy Callie on the Modern Wisdom podcast. But they're talking about how it's becoming the standard in the United States for actual doctors, like the American Academy for Pediatrics, right? Supposed to be up and up. Like these are the doctors that work on children, right? Like you're supposed to have like highbrow, great moral standing, like because again, we all agree children are way more vulnerable than adults, right? Like an adult goes to a doctor and the doctor tries to do something, you have the wherewithal to like maybe think twice or push back or say, I'm going to get a second opinion. Pediatrics, right? A pediatrician, you bring a child in there, pediatrician goes, oh, yeah, no, you need to give him this. People are just like, oh yeah, no, of course, because it's a pediatrician. Pediatricians are great. Like what
Doctor said
they're
it.
not, yeah, they're doctors. They're not gonna steer me wrong. I don't know. They're still just regular people. So regardless, this Callie and Casey Means talking about the American Academy for Pediatrics just release a new standard of care for children that are obese. They want to start prescribing them Ozempic. This isn't like a couple doctors and like someone did a study and like Novo Nordisk, who happens to be the company that owns that created Ozempic and sells it. Um, it's not them saying like, oh yeah, no, like this is great. It's now good for children, right? Like it's approved for children, like the two thumbs up, like we saw a few years ago with that certain uh vaccine that apparently we can't talk about on YouTube anymore because we'll get fucking kicked off. But just randomly out of nowhere, they were like, "Oh yeah, no, two thumbs up for children now. Yeah, 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 kids can get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah." It doesn't matter that all the countries in Europe were like, "Yeah, no, 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 we can't give this to kids." In the United States, because it was being created by these US companies, they were like, "Oh yeah, no, 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 it's good for kids. Just give it to kids. That's no problem." So again, the American Academy for Pediatrics created a new standard of care where they want to start prescribing Ozempic to children that are obese. That is pick your adjective there. Disgusting, terrifying, uh enraging, whatever you want, it's all correct. That's awful. We literally just talked about like an episode or two ago that we don't know the downsides to Ozempic, right? Like we don't know. We won't know for another decade at least, right? And
Well,
now you want to start giving this, to children?
I did Google this Ozempic side effects. Now, I know side effects are tough, but one, two, three. I know fucking podcast rule number one, you don't fucking count. Eight, six. I did find 25 side effects. So that's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
Um, some of them acute kidney injury, tachycardia, pancreatitis, gallbladder disease,
But yeah, no,
thyroid cancer.
two thumbs
Thyroid
up for
cancer.
kids.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good for kids.
Yeah.
It's like
Was Dr. Nick Riviera on the approval board?
hey, everybody. No, it was probably someone from Novo Nordisk who now works at fucking the American Academy for Pediatrics because they're all incestuous, right? We learned that during the pandemic that the head of the CDC used to work for Pfizer, right? And like all that stuff came out and everything, and people just jump back and forth. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was someone on the board at the AAP that used to work for Novo Nordisk, right? Like,
Also, I also like so when I talk shit about doctors, people still like look at me funny because I'm like, they're either dictated by the insurance companies or whoever's lining their pockets.
right.
and it has to be one or the other, right?
Right.
Like Michaela watches Grey's Anatomy. That's like every fucking episode has something, or like it always comes down to, not every episode, but like these conversations like, oh well, this person doesn't have insurance and we can't do that. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? And then Scrubs made a parody of that whole thing. That entire show was a parody of the insurance companies, fucking
Right.
whatever. Um, and people like still look at me funny because I'm like, they're fucking bought and paid for.
Oh
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, there's some that are good and some that are suck and fine. But like this example, like you're gonna tell me that they're not following the money on this one?
Oh yeah.
Like that's all they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to be a fucking moron to tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you either had a traumatic brain injury or you just like refuse to even consider it, to not think that this is just like an absolute cash game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unbelievable, right? Like we again, just a couple episodes ago, we talked about this that, boys in particular from the ages of like 13 to 18 are effectively on steroids, right? Like you could literally fucking they don't get sore, you do whatever you want, you lift weights, you run around, just don't get sore. You're able to build muscle at an incredibly rapid pace. But yeah, a 13-year-old that's obese, instead of telling them to eat less and exercise more, or not even exercise, just move around more, right? Just move, go play, go be a kid, go do this, go play a sport, pick up soccer, do something, like run cross country. You don't want to do a competitive sport? Fine, go do cross country, do something, right? Just play basketball at the park,
When
like swim, do whatever, like do something, instead of saying to a 13-year-old that's obese, just be more active and maybe pay a little bit more attention to what you eat. No, no, no. Just give them a prescription for Ozempic. That's
yeah, and it's
literally what the American Academy for Pediatrics just did by creating this new standard of care.
lots of,
So
and it's
anyone that wants to come at me and be like, well, I mean, pediatricians, they care, they're good. Look at the American Academy of Pediatrics. No, fuck them. They're being bought for. They're being paid for, and their pockets are getting lined by big pharma. So they, in my eyes, are the same as the FDA and the CDC. They can all hop in a nice little boat, go out in the ocean, and get blown up, and then get eaten by sharks.
they can also just go out and fuck each other too.
Yeah, that works too.
Um, yeah, man, and it's shitty because especially with kids, like I know I've brought up I mean, Spencer Nadolski's just like he's the one guy that I know. Like some of these obesity doctors, like there's more to the equation, right? Because every
Right,
fitness person ever just wants to say, "Oh, eat less, move more, eat less, move more," and he's like, "No, that doesn't fucking work."
right,
But he works with adults, and what are we using to? Are we going to use our favorite BMI to classify these kids as obese?
right,
Sick.
right,
That's awesome. So there's gonna be a kid with a fucking six pack that put on more muscle than everybody else because it does exist. That's considered obese by the BMI.
right,
And it's like, oh, well, you're obese, so here's some Ozempic. It's like, bro, I got a six pack. What are we talking about here?
right. Or like, bro, I do gymnastics. Like I'm a
Yeah.
gymnast. Like I look at me. I'm shredded. My shoulders are bigger than your fucking thighs. I mean, like that's
Yeah.
like if you look at a 14-year-old male gymnast, the kid's gonna look like he's getting ready for a bodybuilding competition.
Yeah.
Like, but he's obese on the BMI.
Yeah. Dude, it's fucking like this is what we're talking about here. Idiotic.
Yeah, I would say especially gymnasts, right? Because gymnasts tend to they like
Generally, they're shorter.
it's like a natural selection in the sport itself of being shorter, right? So if you're going to be shorter and you're going to be thick with muscle, like you're going to pop higher on the BMI.
It's gonna be the shorter people, like anyone that's, five, whatever, and like put together, it's like they're always gonna come out as obese
Yeah.
every single fucking time.
Like I bet you Craig. if you run his BMI,
He's
comes out as
close.
obese.
Yeah, he's close
Craig is
with a
what
six
is he,
pack.
what is he like 42 and he looks like he's chiseled out of fucking marble. He looks like the David, right? Like
A little bit
he's
shorter, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, he's a little on the shorter side,
No, but
but
that's the
yeah,
thing. Like,
that's the thing.
so
He's probably
he,
what 5'5"
yeah,
and
ish,
185 and
ish.
maybe 11% body fat.
Yeah, maybe.
But on a BMI scale, he's obese.
Yep.
It's
Or
like
close
this
to.
dude can squat like fucking 450 pounds. And he looks like he's chiseled from fucking marble at 42 years old. And you're gonna tell him he's obese because the BMI test said it.
Yep.
Yeah. Once again, go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Idiotic.
So, I don't know. You got anything else? You want to wrap this up?
We can probably
I
wrap
feel like
this
I did a
up.
lot of ranting tonight. It's a little
Yeah.
cathartic, though. I feel a little looser.
We can probably wrap this up. Let me see what I do. I have one that takes a while. Yeah, okay. So Hurricane John plays football, Worcester State.
Probably obese on the BMI scale.
Probably obese on the BMI scale. Oh, he definitely is. Because he was like 200 pounds and
It's probably like 5'10", five
maybe,
eleven,
yeah. Yeah, something like that.
maybe like 220.
What, wait, no, he's like 200. I don't know what it comes out. Whatever. I forget how to do the BMI because it's a fucking waste of time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was playing at Bridgewater. This is his last season, so it's like, I wanted to get there, wanted to see him play. Like he's far and away the best player they have, whatever. So
Plays
I
for
knew about
Worcester.
he plays for Worcester.
Yeah.
So I knew I knew when the game was, and I was like, man, I want to go. But we're selling this place, we're moving into the new place. It's kind of a fucking it's just chaos. But so he texts me, he goes like, "Hey, you going?" I'm like, "Listen, dude, I am going to do whatever I can to make it, but I just don't know." He goes, "Yeah, cool, man." He goes, "I was just, checking in, making sure you like knew that I was in Bridgewater." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever."
Yeah.
So in my head, I'm like, I'm making a plan because I was working the morning, then open house here, so we couldn't be here,
Mhm.
and we have the dog. Uh, so it was like open house till like 1:30, something like that. Uh, games at 4. We needed to buy a couch, so it's like, all right, well, let's leave Milton at 2, go get a couch, go to the game, come back. It's like, yeah, that should work. Fine. Well, then they had a showing for 3:30 at the condo, and it's like, fuck.
I'd be like, if you want to do that, they need to sign something that says they're going to buy
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You
it.
can't do that shit. But
Yeah, no, I know.
so now I'm like, okay, if it's 3:30, that means I definitely can't go to this game
Right.
because I'm gonna be
Probably takes an hour to get there from Milton. 45,
well, it's not
probably
even
an
that.
hour.
It's just like I'm out the door at like 7. So I'm gonna go to work, go to an unfinished house, not go home, and then go to this game. I'm like, dude, it's too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Too much. Then that gets canceled, that showing. Game's back on. This is all in one day, too. This is all like this the day of the game.
This is great.
So we go back to Milton, we're good, whatever. Showing gets added to 5:30.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Michaela goes, just go to the game. We'll take separate cars to Jordan's. You go to Bridgewater. Like, I'll handle Leo. Like, she goes, I got shit to do anyway, so fine. I go, okay. So we go, we get a couch, drive my ass to Bridgewater. I'm gonna be late, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Uh, get to the area, get close to Hooper Lot, and I see police detail. I see people walking the street, whatever. I go, oh shit. I go, I haven't been here in a while, but like, what the fuck is going on? The Swenson Road lot, whatever, closed. Can't go down it. I'm like, oh fuck, here
Sick.
we go. And there's like a million fucking people. There's fucking tailgates and tents and music. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is
Yeah, since
Bridgewater
when?
State,
Yeah.
Division Three.
We never did that.
So I go to the back. I go, all right, I'll try
Parking
to
tower.
park, not tower, but I'm
Next
like,
to
I'll
the
try to
old, next to
Great
Succotron.
Great
That's probably
Hill,
still in the
whatever.
woods.
And I'm like, the Great Hill lot or fucking Shaderg or something. I'll just walk over because this is fucking chaos. And I
Yeah.
missed the turn to go to Moakley, which wouldn't have worked anyway. So fine.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so I ended up parking in the new parking garage, which has probably been up for 10 years. And I walk my ass over and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? There's so many people.
Yeah.
And then I see fireworks. I listen, I went to this school not that long ago. I go, I remember when we used to just like kind of like sleepwalk our way to a noon game. This is, I
Yep.
mean, I know it's 4 o'clock, but like noon on a Saturday and like, just kind of like go
Yeah.
and no one would be there and nothing going on and
Plenty of room in the stands.
plenty of room.
No one is
And
tailgating.
even
Swenson
when
Lot is not closed.
I went to a game when a kid from UMass Dartmouth was playing against Bridgewater, one of our athletes. We parked in the Swenson lot and just kind of like went in.
Yeah. When was that?
Probably 2016,
Yeah.
2015.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't been there in a while, and I'm like, what is going on? Now, I do get down there. It is homecoming. Now, I had never been to a homecoming game.
Okay. All right. So that's probably what it was, if it was homecoming.
Dude, I am telling you, I was like fucking like I was so fucking lost at what I was doing. Cause like everyone's got tickets on their phone and paper tickets. I'm like, I go, don't tell me it's fucking all
Yeah.
like prepay, like I can't pay cash at the fucking window.
Right.
Nope,
Right.
that's fine, no problem.
Yeah. I'd be like, all right, so I'll go stand in Tinsley and watch the game from the
Yeah,
second floor.
we'll go to the baseball field, like
Go to
whatever.
Haslam's office and just get
Yeah.
binoculars from his office.
Um, and I get up and I'm like, dude, like I am never gonna find Chris at this game. Like
Yeah.
stands are full, people are everywhere. Like when I say like I mean full on tailgating because you know this, but like Bridgewater's a dry campus,
Right.
bro. It looked like a real tailgate. Like everybody's drinking. Like there's a keg in someone's car. Like people are smoking like cigars, weed, everything. Like this is like an actual fucking tailgate. I was like,
Yeah.
what? I must have missed. I go, I must be missing something. Even to the point, so it's like I like Chris is finally now answering me regularly. I go, I'm going across. I'm going to the Worcester side to stand on the fence. And like even getting over there was like
Yeah.
1,000. There was like thousands of fucking people here.
Yeah. That's
And
wild.
again, there's tents with music and tent. I'm like, what the hell? Now I had never gone to a homecoming game, but like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
So eventually I get it to the other side. Derek was there. Rob was there. I met him for the first time. He's large.
NFL Rob. Oh yeah,
Yep,
he's a fucking
he's
small
large, and
human.
he's way smaller now than he was back then.
Oh yeah.
Um, and it's like I didn't stay that long because like dude, chaotic day anyway. Then I get there and I'm like, what the fuck? I go, well, first of all, I can't wait. I go, I gotta beat all these people out of here. That's one
Oh
thing.
yeah. Yeah.
And then it's like I think Bridgewater was up like 25 nothing.
Yeah.
Like the Worcester quarterback was a backup. He gave up two safeties. Like
Yikes.
they had some injury issues. Like it wasn't fucking pretty.
What does John play? A linebacker?
Linebacker.
Yeah.
So he was involved.
Yeah.
Ripped a kid's fucking face mask off at the beginning.
That's awesome.
Um, but I'm not really comprehending what's going on because people are drinking at the field, like
Right.
in the stadium. I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. And
Yeah.
Chris was like, yeah, man. He goes, I was just drinking a red cup, like a whatever he's drinking, vodka, whatever.
Yeah.
Because I just walked right in with it. No one said anything. And I'm like, dude, they used to fucking stop us
Yeah.
and be like, oh, what's in your water bottle? water. It's like, oh, can I sniff it? No, you're not putting your nose in my water bottle. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what's in your backpack? Nothing's in my backpack. Can I look in it? No, you can't fucking look in.
Yeah. Do you have a warrant?
Stop. I'm walking on campus with a backpack.
Yeah.
Like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, to just see like just drinking like out of bottles, out of cans, no issue. I'm like, what the fuck is happening here?
Yeah.
So I did ask my intern who's there. I
Right.
go, dude, you need to fucking explain this to me. I was like, are the games always like that? He goes, no. He goes, no way. I go, do they just let you drink like that? He goes, no. He goes, you got to be way better. But like, so
Yeah.
I think for
It's
homecoming, they
only
just don't
homecoming.
care.
So I will say, I do think it's a newer thing because my last year at Bridgewater, which was what, 2016, I did go to homecoming. And did they have like one of those big white event tents in the parking lot?
Um, no. So the parking lot has cover now. It
Oh,
looks
really?
permanent. Yeah, it
Oh,
looks
wow.
permanent.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
I mean, again, this was almost 10 years ago. So
because
I
cars were
went
parked like in there and everything.
I went to homecoming in 2016. Or actually, I guess it would have been 2015, right? Because I graduated in 16. So, um, and they had one of those big white event tents, and then they had a wine tasting thing inside. So you could get like a flight of wine and like a bunch of other things, or like fucking Miller Lite, right, on tap. Like there was like
Yeah.
four, five, six different wines that you could get, and then like a single beer that you could get on tap, but you needed to um, purchase drink tickets for it, and you needed a wristband, and you couldn't bring it into the stadium. You had to stay in the white tent in there. And I
Yeah.
remember being like, wow, this is kind of cool because like where this is a dry campus or whatever. And then, we always used to joke about it being a dry campus when it's not, but it's dry in name only. We were like, oh yeah, funny, dry campus, but we have this giant tent with booze in it. Um, but like I do remember I went to that homecoming and I went in the tent and hung out and just ran into people that I went to school with and all the shit that you do at homecoming. But it was self-contained to that one
This was
area.
fucking this was chaos.
So clearly it's grown in 10 years.
Yeah, it looked like a real school for a second.
Yeah. But then you go any other weekend and it's just like it was when
Yeah,
we
I
were
guess
there.
it's just as is. Well, because that's the thing is like parents of players would tailgate and I'm sure they would drink whatever. So it's almost like a don't ask, don't tell, but like if you're openly drinking, like I have to say like the cops have to say something, I
Right, right,
assume.
right. Yeah.
But like, hey, if it is in a red cup and you're not bothering anyone, like whatever.
Yeah, because that's the one thing about homecoming too, is like you just said, there's a there's like bona fide adults there,
Yes.
right? Like there's people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, like they're gonna drink. Like you're not gonna tell someone who's I mean, we went to Bridgewater, so let's not get it twisted here. It's not like the CFO at like Dell EMC is from Bridgewater or anything, but like still, you're not gonna tell someone who's highly successful in their 50s and 60s that they can't drink a fucking beer in the parking lot before the homecoming game,
Right.
right? It's like, no, fuck you, right? Like, get out of here. But yeah, that's funny. That's come
Yeah,
a
it looked
long
like,
way.
again, looked like a real school for a second.
I think I want to say 2015 was the first year when it started with that tent. Um,
Probably. I mean, again, I never went to any homecoming games.
yeah. Again, I only went once and I only went that one time because so I remember specifically why, because I was like, well, I'm out of here. I just spent 6 years here. It's my last year of grad school. I was like, I'll just go. So, but I think this was the same. I think it was the same situation. Like we went and we met like Derek and my Derek and Derek Healy. Rob was there. I think Daly might have come down for that because it was before him and Cassie got married. Like there was just like it was just all those everyone was there.
Yeah, I mean, again, looked like I was very, very confused.
Yeah.
Very
All the field
confused.
hockey girls were there. I remember because they were like jazzed up about the wine. I remember that.
Yeah, you don't need a I guess now you don't need to worry about wine or tents or any of that shit.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
just full on fucking party.
Wow. Oh, dude, we should go next year.
Yeah.
Imagine. You know what's sad though is we would run into people that we went to college with. Like we would go uh sarcastically, right? Almost like, oh yeah, fuck this. Like let's just go and see how stupid it is, whatever. Like we would go like just to be dicks about it. But there would be tons of people that we went to school with there that would be like, eating it up.
Oh yeah, we're back. Back
Oh
for
yeah, dude.
homecoming.
Oh, this is great. Yeah, I come every year. How come I haven't seen you guys in so long? I'm here every year. I haven't seen you. Yeah, man, I haven't been here in 10 years. Like I just kind of came just as like a joke, but
I'm also fairly certain the people that I knew in college won't be back.
yeah, I mean, I hung out with mostly all the athletes anyway, so they're going to be the ones that are going to go back. But
Yeah, I also think the ones that are most likely to go back are the ones that grew up around there and still also live around there. Because
true.
if you live in a different state or a different part of this state,
Yeah,
you're not going.
right. Yeah, if you live in Worcester, like you're not going to drive to Bridgewater for homecoming
No.
at 37 years old.
And
You
not
know
for
what I
nothing,
mean?
like if you went to fucking UGA and you're gonna go back to Athens, Athens has hotels and infrastructure and bars and restaurants. Bridgewater doesn't have any of that stuff.
Dude, Bridgewater has bars now and restaurants. Bogarts looks clean. Did you see the Fiesta, the Chessman's? Like, did you drive through downtown? And you see all the
Yeah.
changes of everything.
Well, I drove from
Did you see the massive apartment building right next to my old house on
yes.
Burl?
Yeah. Um, but I didn't come from 104. I came from 106 and 28. I went through West
Okay,
Bridgewater.
okay.
But yeah, I mean, just a little alarmed. And that was like the other thing. I'm like, man, if it was like this when we were here, like this would have been fun.
Yeah. The only like real bar we had, like restaurant bar, was Barrett's, and you couldn't get to it because you had to
Yeah,
drive there and no one wanted to drink and drive.
right.
And Uber, although it was a thing, it wasn't a thing in Bridgewater. You couldn't get an Uber in
Yeah.
Bridgewater in 2012. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not getting an Uber. I mean, I'm sure you can now, right? But it was a big thing when Broad Street changed over to Greyhound.
It's Greyhound now.
Yeah. Or maybe it was something else before it was
It was
Greyhound.
Tony's, then it was Broad Street, then it was Greyhound.
Okay. Um, yeah, but maybe so when it became Broad Street, it got nicer. I think when it was Tony's, it was kind of like shitty and ghetto, and I think they were peddling drugs out of the back. But, um, but yeah, once it became Broad Street, like it was nice, right? But like all we had was Broad Street. It was small, right?
Small, dude. It was a
Bogarts
really
was
small
gross.
place.
It was the most disgusting place ever, right? So it's like we didn't have like a good spot to go and like just hang out, and even just to hang out and sit and watch football on a Saturday. Like we couldn't even go watch college games or anything. Again, you'd have to go to Barrett's, which was
Or
a
Emma's
yeah, or
in the
Emma's.
in downtown.
Yeah. Like nothing like the places that were walkable sucked.
Yeah.
But like now it's a fucking real place. Go figure.
No, dude, it's two
Well, it's
Mexican
more
places
it's a
across the
more
street from
it's
each
more
other.
real than it was when we were there. It's a low bar.
Yeah.
It's fucking Bridgewater, Massachusetts. uh, All right. Well, my final thought is Pink Floyd just sold their entire catalog, right? And I think this has been happening to a lot of people. Like I think Bob Dylan did it a few years ago. Um, Bruce Springsteen sold his catalog for $500 million like a year or two ago. Pink Floyd just sold their entire catalog for $400 million. So that is pretty incredible, but also kind of odd that they didn't get as much as Bruce Springsteen. Well, I guess
No, it's
so.
not
Yeah.
odd.
So the more I think about it, it's like I prefer Pink Floyd more. I think Pink Floyd is way better. I think Bruce Springsteen is not really that good. He's got like three good songs, and then everything else he made was trash. Um, but
People love him.
people love Bruce, so I guess I can understand.
State of New Jersey.
Yeah. Well, I'm the worker man. He just did a fucking commercial for stupid Kamala Harris being sitting in a diner wearing a flannel shirt, being like, I'm the boss and I'm supporting Kamala. I think Trump is the worst president in the world. We should support her. And it's like, dude, you literally just made $500 million last year selling your cat, and that's just from your catalog sale, right? Like you're so fucking rich, you have no idea. But like that's the thing. Like so, Ross Patterson always makes fun of him on Drinking Bros and Ross Patterson Revolution, his podcast. He's like, yeah, you get Bruce Springsteen. Oh, I'm the working man. All my songs about being working man and supporting America. I'm worth $1 billion, but I support the working man. And he's like, dude, you haven't worked a hard day in your life in like 50 fucking years. Like you haven't done anything difficult in over 50 years. Like, don't come at me with this. Oh, I'm the working man. I support all this. Like, no, fuck you. You're a fraud. Like, it's always Ross's thing. Like anytime Bruce Springsteen comes up, he always shits on him for being a fraud. Um, which I think is accurate. But yeah, so Floyd sold their catalog to Sony for $400 million. But which I think is so it's basically just Roger Waters and David Gilmour, right? Isn't everyone else dead?
No.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was just the two of them that are left.
Yeah, so this is the thing though, it's like I actually was never really a big Pink Floyd guy. Um, which I that like in high school I thought like why does I'm like everyone loves this band. I'm like it's good.
Yeah,
Like why does everyone like love this? And then I just realized I'm like, oh, it's just too fucking slow for me. That's why like I don't like it. It's just
yeah,
too slow.
yeah.
Like let's get it moving.
Or it was literally like just get super high and
Yeah,
listen to
that was
Dark
another
Side of the
thing.
Moon.
It's like, oh, let's get stoned and listen to like this one band. It's
Yeah.
like, wow, what a unique experience. That sounds great. Can't wait to get excited to do that.
Yeah. So I
Oh,
mean
why
they're up
that's
they're
probably
up there
another
for
reason
me.
why I never got into weed either.
Yeah.
Because everyone just wanted to like get high and listen to Pink Floyd. I'm like, this sucks. Oh, let's get high and just like go to Burger King. And then what?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about growing up in Medford, right? You just get high and then it's like, all right, well, cool. What do we do now? It's like, I don't know, go sit in Burger King parking lot. It's like, oh, okay, dude, that's kind of fucking lame.
Awesome.
Or like, let's get really high and go walk down like Medford Square. It's like, all right, that also doesn't seem very enjoyable. Like at least like, in the suburbs, you're like, all right, I'll just go sit in the woods and fucking talk to trees or something. You know what I mean? Like
Love that.
we didn't have much woods in Medford outside of the cemetery in West Medford.
Plenty of trees. You just needed to know where they were.
Yeah. We had trees. We just didn't have woods.
no forests and enough woods, no forests.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I
Um,
did all of my drinking.
well, yeah, I hope that I know that's basically that in playgrounds,
Yeah,
which sounds terrible, but
I was never, I was never, well, I mean, Barry Park,
at
sure, but
Barry
like,
Park, we would just jump between Barry and Playstead.
yeah, never really liked drinking at the parks.
It was too much in the open.
That's
There
what I
was
mean.
there was nowhere to go.
Everyone saw you. And that's the thing, the
Yeah,
park's closed. It's at night. You're the only people there.
yeah, and
And you're
also
and you're loud as hell.
I was just gonna say, also it's Friday night at 11 o'clock, and there's 6 18-year-olds in Barry Park being loud. Like, what did you think was gonna happen? Right? Like, it's Friday night at 11 o'clock. Like, don't fucking sit in a park and drink.
Yep.
So, but yeah, shout out to Pink Floyd for selling the catalog 400
Yeah.
million bucks.
Credit to them.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for us. So thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, hit subscribe up above, hit the thumbs up down below. Subscribe if you're an audio only guy as well. Leave us a review on Spotify and iTunes. That would be great. You can get us on Instagram at Sarcasm Speaks Pod. Twitter is sarcasm underscore speaks. Facebook is sarcasm speaks. The website is sarcasmspeaks.com. Check out the show notes below. Support the sponsors, support us. And until next time, good night, everybody.